All hail the King of Scotland. Josh Taylor is now the undisputed super light welterweight world champion. I'm Martin Domin. I'm joined by, it would seem, a man who has denounced his Welsh heritage and is one of our own for the day at least, in Barry Jock Jones, and also by Declan Taylor to reflect on Josh Taylor's win over Jose Ramirez in Las Vegas last night. 2 knockdowns in the 6th and 7th rounds proved to be the difference. Judges had 6 rounds apiece out with that. But it is Josh Taylor who now has all 4 belts. Barry, would you say it went as you expected?
Yeah, I think it was a tightly fought contest, and you expect that from 2 fighters who were so good. I thought Taylor was a bit wider on the scorecards for me. I just preferred his work and a lot of stuff. But Ramirez was tough and game, and wouldn't allow anyone to switch off for a second. But it was fantastic. It was lovely to watch, and what a result! He's just elevated to a different level. No, Josh Taylor, he really has. I can't say how good he is. He just does everything really well. Like even the uppercut in the second knockdown, the way there was no space. I know the referee might have tapped. Actually, the referee did him a favor. He tapped the glove to release it, but there's no space for that shot. But he finds space so close for that uppercut, and with power as well. Well, not like a flicking shot. He gets to bend his legs and get some purchase on the shot. It was brilliant. And even the first knockdown with a little shimmy with the shoulders and coming back with that short left hand as Ramirez comes forward. He's good, and he can tough it out, because Ramirez can overwhelm you, and he has done that in the past with all his opponents. And there was a fear that little stages that if Josh didn't engage his brain enough, that might have happened, but it doesn't. He tucks up nice and tight, and he got that thing that great fighters have, that when they get hurt, they can still maintain their discipline, they can still maintain their work ethic and their quality, which is, most people get hurt and there's a panic in you, and you look to survive, or you go gung-ho like a lunatic, but in a really untidy manner. But he never does. He gets hurt, and you've seen him a few times last night. He got physically, he got wobbled with some good shots, and so he should. Ramirez is a top quality fighter, but looks to fire back, and looks to fire back with quality. And I just think that's a hallmark of a great fighter.
Declan, Josh did say in the week that there was a lot of talk about Ramirez's heart, determination, skill, or will, but in the end it would come down to Josh Taylor's skill. Fair to say that was indeed the case. Maybe after the first few rounds were a bit closer, but Josh sort of took over middle rounds.
Yeah, I would say that it basically played out as most people sort of expected it to be, and that was just Taylor was just a little bit better in the sort of key departments, but had to work for everything, but based on the way that Ramirez pressured him and hung in there. I mean, I think with the second knockdown, he got a long one. He got about 20 seconds to recover. But that being said, to make it through the whole fight with that happening in the 7th round, that heavy knockdown, he looked like he was all over the place. It's just a testament to his his determination, his chin, his conditioning as well. But I think, we spoke about it a bit before, that I think Taylor just had done it at a little bit higher level in the Prograis fight and Baranchik and stuff, and he'd sort of had to go there a little bit more. And what I do think, picking up on what Barry said as well, I think a lot of it was knowing when to have a little walk at times. He got wobbled, and then he would just clear off for 10 seconds and just move, because he can do that. He's long enough to do it, and he's obviously skillful enough to do it. And there was one round, I can't remember what round, it was the 9th or the 10th or something. Ramirez had a bit of success towards the end of the round, and Taylor just got on his bike for the rest of it and just moved around. He ended up in the corner at the end of the round, but the bell went and he was safe. And it was that perfect combination of switching it on when he needed to, sitting in the pocket when he needed to, tucking up, catching and counter, which was the key from the start. And I think Ben Davison has spoken a lot in the week about using Ramirez's aggression against him. I think that was basically what he meant. We knew that left hook to the body from Ramirez was always going to be a key shot, but it was key in the opposite way, in the way that Taylor was always, as soon as he felt it, ping straight up the middle with the uppercut. So not only would it sort of make Ramirez think twice about throwing it, but obviously it was success up close. If you miss with that left hook to the body, no matter how well you throw it, your chin's open just for a split second, and it was just success every time. And it just showed that he's not... Ramirez to call him one-dimensional is harsh, but he didn't have that dimension that the great fighters have, like Josh Taylor, and he proved that. I think we've seen glimpses of it throughout his career, which has been reasonably short actually for what he's achieved. But he put it all together last night, and it was just about the perfect performance. I thought the scorecards were a little bit harsh on him, to be honest. Like, it was level basically, apart from the knockdowns, which I'm not sure how you could give Ramirez 6 rounds, but. The important thing is he won. Imagine if there was a draw or he didn't get the decision last night. He won, correct winner. It was a fight we've been calling for so long, and we could see it in the distance that it was going to be amazing, and it lived up to it. And that, as boxing fans, first and foremost, you can't really ask for anything more.
I have to say, I was worried about the link up with Ben Davison.
Yeah.
And it was a worry that Ben's a good trainer and so on, but there was always a worry that he might tinker too much with Josh Taylor and have him boxing more. Now, which would seem like a good idea, but again, it's like you said, Declan. Taylor knows when to do the right things at the right time. A mark of a great fighter. And I was just worried that because that first fight they had together didn't really count. It was a blowout against a guy who was inferior, but this was a real first fight together. But he didn't tinker with Taylor. Taylor boxed the same as he's boxed in the past. I know. So I take my hat to Ben Davison. Not his ego didn't get in the way to want to stamp his style too much on Taylor. He let him box his fight, and I think that was a real smart move. So that's already a great partnership, that they trust enough. He trusts Taylor as much as Taylor trusts him to let him do his job, to box the way that he boxes, his natural style, and not mess around with him. Because that was my worry, that he makes him maybe a more cuter fighter, but then that takes away what makes Taylor great. That, I can say it now because my name's Jock Jones. That Scottish grit, that grit thing that we all have in Scotland. But I also thought that was going to do him against. I thought that was going to be his comeuppance against Prograis. That was going to hold him up. That was going to maybe give Prograis the advantage that he might want to get involved too much. But actually, that helped him in that fight, and I think it did in this fight. Knowing when to do it, and I just think, yeah, like you've already said, and just going over your point again, so it becomes my point, and I become clever. He just knew what to do at the right time.
Yeah.
Whereas Ramirez was always just trying to do his plan and was successful at times. Of course, he was. I made every minute of every round was competitive, but Taylor knew when to do the right things at the right time. And yeah, I'm glad I realised that and just brought it up as my own valid point.
But it's funny with Davison as well, because it's a strange parallel to make, but he had a first fight with Lee Wood in the bubble, and when he knocked out on the Warrington card, and he knocked out Reece Mould, and that was their first fight together, and it was one of them where he got hurt badly, Wood, and it felt like he'd been caught a little bit between two stools early on in that fight, because it was obviously a new thing with Davison, and he had his old stuff, and in the end they turned it around and it worked, and that was the worry here, wasn't it? That might happen with Taylor, but it didn't. And I think the beauty of what they've got in such a complete fighter turning up off the back of his best win of his career is that they haven't got to tinker anything. They can literally tailor that, no pun intended, that camp to how we beat Ramirez, and look at it and go, how do we prepare for every single thing that's going to happen in this fight, or what could happen? So we haven't got to think about, right, I want to work on this shot, or I want to work on this, because he's got every tool already. It's like, right, how are we going to beat this guy? We've got this one bloke in front of us for everything. How do we beat him? We haven't got to think about anything else. We haven't got to worry about weight. The S&C's taken care of by Dan Lawrence now. So they've got everything in place. And you're right. And a trainer with a bigger ego might have gone, nah, I want this from him. I want him to do this, this, and this. But it wasn't like that. And I think it's big credit for Davison.
Yeah, you're right, because as much as the fighting needs to be, it's all about the fighter. Everyone's got their own ambitions, and you sort of think that some trainers would. And there's a worry that Ben would, and you wouldn't blame him, because they, again, like they all have their own ambitions. That you want to be in the post-fight press club and say, "I did this, and that's why we won, because I changed him to do this," and that happens, of course, at times. And look at when Tyson Fury left Ben and went with Emmanuel Stewart's boy, Sugar Hill, and then Sugar Hill gets the credit for making him more offensive, but really, Tyson does what he wants to do. That's pretty much what it is. But you have guidance, and that's what a trainer should be. Once you get a quality fighter, you just need to give him guidance and make sure he's doing, things, he doesn't lax or lose his shape or stuff like that. And so I think I was really happy with that. They never messed with Taylor at all. Just left him as he was. and just worked on specific tactics for that one fighter, and it worked a treat. I had it much wider than the judges, and there was only one winner in a hugely competitive fight. I think Ramirez could have won if he would have done a few things differently, but he doesn't do things differently. I just think stylistically, it was just a hard fight for him.
Boxer size Ben does it again.
I'm sort of loath to talk about mind games, but Josh said afterwards that he tried that whole week to unsettle him. But there did seem a couple of points in between rounds when Ramirez did seem to be a little bit wasting energy, having a go, being very, even after the knockdown. He did seem, I don't know if rattled is the right word, but he definitely seemed to be a little bit, maybe it was just frustration that he was losing the fight.
Taylor's a dirty fighter. Just naturally dirty fighter. So he hits you with elbows and he hits you low and he pulls down on the back of your neck, which he did constantly against Ramirez. And he does it. And he doesn't care because he's tough, hard, maniac. So he doesn't care. That's how he is. Over all the beauty, that's what I mean. He has almost everything in his locker. He can box beautifully. He can punch. He's not a KO artist, but he can punch enough to knock you out and hurt you and make you panic. He can pick his spots. He can fight inside, at 3/4 range, whatever you want to do. He can pretty much do it without looking like a fancy Dan. You haven't got that sort of style, but everything's really good. And he can be dirty, naturally dirty. So he comes in with a head, elbows. If you do something bad to him, that's it. He loves it. He wants to have that. He wants it. He doesn't want an easy fight. You can see it in him. You can see in his eyes. He got those beautiful blue piercing eyes, which should be so attractive, and they're dead. That fight week, and they are, in that fight week, they're dead. They might as well be great because he's just like, you're my focus. You are. It's like you've done something personal to him, and he wants to hurt you, and he blames you for everything that's wrong in his life. Any problem he has is your fault. And some fighters need that. But he can just when people got to engineer issues, I think he can just do it himself. Boxers are crazy people. They weren't boxing; they would be in lunatic asylums, most of them, and that's how it is. They just the boxing calms them and gives them a channel to a release. And I think Josh Taylor's one of those. To be honest, God knows what he would be doing if he wasn't so good at boxing. But that for him is he's dirty, and I think Ramirez was noticing that. But he was maybe physically naturally stronger person. Nothing was working because then you get an elbow and a head in the face and pushed on the back of the neck. Everything got close. Taylor didn't get really low, so you couldn't hit him. He was pushing you down the back of your neck, and the referee didn't do a great job for either one. Actually, I think he was very indecisive all night, but it worked for Taylor's advantage.
I think Fight Week did definitely play a part in it. Whether Ramirez would admit that or even realize it, but he's had a reasonably serene career so far in that sense. And then you've got this guy, this Scottish guy who turns up with about 5 of his mates, not a big entourage, and every time he sees you, he's putting it on you. Even in the lobby with all those Mexican fans, there's no way that Ramirez on Friday night and Saturday morning in his head is going, this geezer, what is up with this bloke? There's no way that that can't have just trickled in a bit. And I'm not saying it won Taylor the fight, but I do think it probably unsettled Ramirez a bit. Whether Taylor meant to do it or what, that's just the way he is. They call him Hank. He's like, from me, myself, and Irene. It's exactly that. He's got this alter ego, and it comes in. And I thought he played a blinder in Fight Week because he was just himself. He put it on Ramirez's manager. Everything he wanted to do, he put it on him after the weigh-in. All of that stuff, he just did what he wanted to do. People say it can be unedifying, that sort of stuff, but it's just him. And I think Ramirez set an early pace from the start, maybe even a little bit too fast. And I wonder whether that was because he just stormed out of the blocks because he was concerned. He was like, I need to put my will on this guy. I need to show him from the start that he can't bully me like he has in Fight Week. And maybe that he unraveled because he couldn't maintain that pace. And by 6 and 7, when he goes down, the whole fight is totally different then at that point. I had it probably maybe 2-2 after 4, and then it all changes. And I think that was because Ramirez just stopped. He was like a train at the start. And who knows whether that was because of what had happened Fight Week.
You're probably right, because even though I wouldn't say they thought they could stop Taylor, but the way Ramirez fights, he wears you down. If you don't get a stoppage early, he wears you down, and you think, I'll make him quit, or no, I can hurt him, I'll hurt him, and he won't want to know. But you've seen his fights in the past, he's tough, but then you see him all week in your face, especially because he haven't got a big entourage and no one there to save him really especially that one in the lobby where there was there was loads of Mexican people that if it all really kicked off, they're going to get a hiding. Them lot, there's Who have they got? They got no one there. They got no big guys with them either. No fighters there to help him, really. A couple of fighters, but so they're going to get a hiding. But he don't care, Josh Taylor, about him or the people with him, by the way.
No.
He's just that, do you want it? And then you think, he's not going to quit, is he? He's not. I got to really knock him out. Like, he's not. You sort of know sometimes that you're coming up against a guy who, whatever you do to him, unless you nail him to the canvas, he's coming back. So that again, that's a worry. That might be the fast start. So I better jump on him quick and make it really hard. And I think also it's in a fight like that when you've got two quality fighters who like to be the boss. It's patterns of fights. So also patterns of fights are very important, and to stamp your authority quicker. Sometimes then it's hard to change a pattern of a fight. It's very difficult to do that. So if you can stamp your authority quicker, he's always playing catch up. So his mindset's a little bit different then because there's a bit more panic in his work possibly. So that I think the fast start wasn't a bad idea, maybe, but because he had some success down the stretch.
Yeah,
more success down the stretch, if anything, Ramirez. So I don't think it affected him. Those middle rounds he struggled with, but he got caught with two good shots that drained your energy. To be fair. And he did, and he had a bad 8th round as well, Ramirez, I thought, as well for me. And so, but he come back as all good champions do. He came back and shrugged it off, and made Taylor work down the stretch. But Taylor's just brilliant. And look at him now. He's a pound for pound, top 3 and 4. Like, you've got to say that. You've got to. His resume is just better than almost anybody's right now currently. It really is. There's one bad fighter, and he was undefeated in 20. I got to hear. He was undefeated in 16. His last fight. That's the only fight that you just wouldn't even worry about. All the rest of them, and Ryan Martin maybe, but he was touted as going to be a big thing. He obviously was there that night, and he crumbled. But the rest of them, quality fighters. Victor Postel, the only one who got a defeat in his last 6 fights. He lost. But he was a world champion who just lost his title to Terence Crawford. He's the weak link out of those. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just a crazy resume. It really is. And in this era of boxing, where we all moan and groan, and I watched it on Fight TV, and they showed that their little clip. They had their HBO, they had the Top Rank feed, so they had they had a little clip about people saying about boxing today always changed. Oh, we wish we were going back to the old days. It's a big montage. We miss boxing like it used to be. They've shown clips of Leonard and Duran and Hearns and Hagler, all this brilliant stuff, And then they were showing clips of the YouTube fights and and the thing what's been happening now with Floyd Mayweather was happy and nicked and all this stuff that we all as boxing fanatics moan and groan and cry about. If only we could have boxing like it used to be. And then they just put a picture up there of Taylor and Ramirez. It's like, well, this is what it used to be. We're moaning about we don't get to see the fights that we used to want to see. This is it. This is as good as it gets. Because stylistically, it couldn't have been it wasn't like a fight of the year contender for me, but it was an enthralling fight all throughout of the highest quality. And the two best boxing. Now we have one champion now, and that's undisputed. You can't argue that anyone could beat him at all. He's beaten everyone. He's beaten all the best fighters in front of him who are around at his weight, and he's to beat them all.
Well, you certainly can't argue with the stats. 18 fights, 4 belts. Only the 5th man to do that. Fighter. Second in Scotland. Oh, sorry, first.
Yeah,
world champion.
British fighter to do it.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So, which means obviously we can't let them dwell on it too much because we have to talk about what's next. And I guess if he wants to remain with all 4 belts, which is arguably just as hard as getting them in the first place, he has to fight Jack Catterall, his WBO mandatory, who stepped aside to allow this fight to happen. So I guess he has that option. He can give up the WBO belt to stay at 140, or he can move up to 147.
If I was him, I would fight Jack Catterall 100%. He's not obviously Jack Catterall's a quality fighter himself. He's worked himself into a position, but he's not. It's not a big pay-per-view fight. It's not massive, but I feel like he could do with one of them actually, and defend his belts. And look, Catterall's no mug. It's a good fight. I think it's the really good next fight. And then if he wins and he maintains his belts, then he can look for one. That's what I would do personally. I wouldn't vacate anything. I wouldn't move up right now. But if the offer's there, then who knows what we do. But if I was him, I'd go, yeah, let's get Catterall done in what we're in May, so September, October sort of time. maybe, and then have a big one. Look, next year is the year of making massive money and being in mega fights. But who knows? Maybe he'll get an offer from whoever it might be.
I think if he struggles remotely to make the weight, just go now, because the risk of getting because every year, if you do struggle to make the weight, let me get my words out. Every year you get older, it gets massively increasingly harder. So move up. If you struggle to move up, because there's just names there. Terence Crawford, that's an easy fight to make. He's still with top rank at the minute. And I think Bob Arum will want to keep him in the States now to build that profile. I think for me, I think that'd be important. And because Cattrall's a fight which he's a massive favourite, of course, and Cattrall's a good fight and deserves his shot. But what's the route? He won't get no credit for beating him. The chances of him defending all his titles by then he'll probably have to give one away. That's what boxing's like, crazy. And he'll be made Emirates champion by the WBC and some else champion of the WBA. So all those titles, you don't know what will be the real title anymore. And it's a fight that might not be great to watch. If Cattrall boxes away, if Cattrall has success and does what he should do, he'll make it tricky because it's possible. So he might be might not be a great fight. But he's come off with some really good fights. So I just think, the Crawford fight, or there's fights below him, Lopez, and I know he deserves an easy fight. But why have an easy fight now?
But that's what
keep going
with the belts, though, because I don't think that his weight is a massive issue, and keep the belts. And you mentioned there Lopez, Ryan Garcia, these guys, Tank Davis. These are the money makers. Like, I know welterweight's full of these stars, but they barely even fight. If I was him, I'd keep my belts. 4 belt, I would be the absolute don at 10 stone, which he already is, and then let these big names, big money guys come up, and then he can just knock them off. And then when he's ready, he can go up and fight whoever the man is at welterweight. But to do that, he has to fight Jack Cattrall.
Yeah, of course it is, and fair enough. And he might be thinking, but I worry that he thinks I'll go back home and have my homecoming fight against Jack Cattrall, who I'll just walk through, and it might not be that easy. And and he's never taken his foot off the gas, has he, Taylor, in any fight? But you can maintain that forever. I just think that he's better off having a shorter career of quality than having a longer career, because there's still another fight, which is still no good for you, by the way. So just stay where you are now. I wouldn't want to drop down in quality. I know all these easy fights, and all they add is banana skins that you don't need. I think, to be honest, they're just banana skins you don't need. So, I think if someone comes up in weight, because he'll struggle to keep those titles now by next week. He'll struggle to still have all those 4 belts. Somehow, something will happen. Something will happen. What if he's hurt his hand and he can't box now till January? And all those organizations are going to go, well, be fair, Josh, you won our title, so we won't, Josh, trust us, trust us. We won't tinker with anything. We're organizations. We're running world boxing. We won't tinker with anything and mess it up and make it confusing. You're our champion. We won't touch you. Of course, it's not going to happen. The WBC will have an interim and an EBM Emirates champion, have a regular thing, and WBA will have their 15 champions per weight, and the WBO will order a thing, because how long does Cattrall have to wait for his shot, to be fair, And the IBF will probably be the only ones who probably will stand their ground. But but then they will demand he has to fight their mandatory within so many weeks anyway, probably. So it'll just get too tricky. So, but if all those big names move up, he'll need to keep one title. It doesn't matter then. He's done it. He's done it then. But then he gets the big names and big money. So for him now, it's big money and career-defining fights. That's what I would think. And if he got 2 years left, 3 years left, because he's not young. He's young, but he's not young, as we think he is. So you get 2 years now to cement your legacy. It don't matter about getting beat. Like, he won't get beat, but I don't think. It's not matter about getting beat. It doesn't matter now. What he's done now is career defining. What he can do after can just add on to that for me. But Ryan Garcia is a huge name. It's a big star. Gets a big payday. Crawford gets a big payday, and also if you can beat someone like Crawford or have a real good fight and get a rematch with him, they're fights that people will remember forever, because Crawford's one of the best who've ever done it. Certainly the best in his weight, in the current era, and top 2. and that makes it for Taylor. He becomes a British legend if he's not already, but he guarantee forever becomes a British legend because you can just look at his record and go, man, the kid never took an easy fight. He had one easy fight. He had one easy fight in like since he won the world title and just before that eliminated for the world title. He's had one easy fight that was on paper an easy fight. Whether they're easy or not, I said, well, how good you are. They're all, and so why? I just don't see why he wants to even mess around. And if he can make the weight, then entice the other big names. I don't know whether he's financially a big enough draw for those guys to want to fight him. Why would you want to fight him? How would you beat him? Because you look at him, you think, I can outbox him. I've got too much lateral movement and skill. You haven't, though. He's really skillful without looking really skillful. Do that make sense? He's not pretty. He's not like a fancy Dan. He doesn't dance around and flick the jab and stick the chin out and do both. None of that crap. So you don't think he's a great boxer. Like they said, Billy Joe Saunders had better footwork than Canelo. Different footwork. Looks prettier, but Canelo's footwork is just as good in a different way. And Taylor's like that. You say Crawford's an actually better boxer than Taylor. Is he? He's more athletic maybe, but the way Taylor boxes, elbows tucked in, he slides in out of distance, he cuts the ring off. He's beautiful to watch.
I'd love to see the build-up for Crawford Taylor as well. Two mean blokes, just vicious geezers. It'd be so good to get them together. It'd be unbelievable. And I disagree with you slightly about why would
go.
Why would anyone look at him? I know what you're saying. Like why would someone like Teofimo Lopez or whatever look at him and go, "Why do I want to fight him?" But when he's got 4 belts up there and he is the man, you know that you become the man by beating him. And like, I know he's not a massive name, but I think that would have done well. It was obviously terribly promoted. We've banged on about it. It was a terribly promoted fight, but it would have done wonders for him in America. Those 2 knockdowns, we're talking about little clips on Instagram that people like. But the Crawford fight is just, that is, like you say, is just one for the ages, isn't it? It's almost, I dread, like, I hate to say it, and it's probably speaking as a Brit, but I think right now, if I could pick Taylor Crawford or Crawford Spence, I'd probably go with Taylor Crawford. I'd just love to see it. I think it would be sensational. And you're right, one of those ones that will live forever.
Yeah, whatever the result.
Yeah.
See, what does he do now? I don't think Taylor's one of those. Like, I think he's one of those kids. Like again, another great fighter who just doesn't think they can get beat. He knows it's a possibility. Like Carl Zagley, he always knew it was a possibility, and that gives the edge. But inside them, they just thought, if I can do what I can do, I can't get beat. I don't know. I just cannot get beat. We all have a bravado, but they genuinely really believe it. But I don't think they're scared of getting beat. So I don't think he want to protect that undefeated record now and retire undefeated and go, there you go, I did it. I unified my division, retired undefeated. I'm a boxing god, which he would be, in Britain, of course. I think he'll want to go on now. I don't think nothing. He'll have a thirst now, Taylor, of I want more, a bigger fight, and that's why I find it hard to see the Catchall fight happening unless he thinks it's an easy fight to come back to. But I just think it's a risky fight boxing's a hard sport. It's a short career. You just take the fights while they're there, I think, and the big fights while they're there. I think no, he announced himself a little bit in America, but he's still not the A side for most of those fights that we've mentioned, or not, any of those fights he mentioned. So, just keep going the way you're going now. And if it takes a year or 2 years out of your career, is that a bad thing? You retired earlier. But you still have the big fights with the big money. Catchall's not going to be huge money for him. I mean, relatively to what he's can earn with the others, nowhere near. So why does he need it? Catchall will get his shot regardless. Whoever's the WBO champion, that's who Catchall will face. So he'll get his opportunity. It doesn't matter to him. So, and will the other organisations allow Taylor to box him? As a volunteer, I don't know how that works.
It also seems like Terence Crawford's not exactly beating down. Or people are not beating down his door to fight him at the moment. He's obviously not fighting Spence. He's not fighting Pacquiao. So I guess maybe it does feel like it would be quite sudden, but also maybe there won't be a better time to do it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is a bit of that. I think, but it's I don't know what the situation is with Crawford and Top Rank because they seem to have this falling out. And Bob was talking about he's lost so much money on him and stuff like that. So I don't know what they're going to do. But you're right. It's not like look, Spence is fighting Pacquiao like that. Crawford's not got anyone there, and he's had this problem his whole career. So that's the guy right there. But he might say, sort of be thinking at it like Barry is, going, this guy's real good, like, but nobody knows who he is. What do I gain from fighting him? I'm better off fighting one of the names at welterweight, even though I'll beat him. That's the one. That's the one I'd pick. That's the fight I want to see, though. That's the one. But I just wonder whether he'll stick around and fight Catterall first, and then he won't go to welterweight yet. But it depends on how bad that cut was, really.
A nice homecoming later this year would go down well. Questionable whether he'll be able to do it outside, as is his dream. That is all from this week. Next weekend is Devin Haney and Jorge Linares. But from us, our two Scots and an Englishman. Until next time, goodbye.